The Pleasant Valley Bridge stretched across the Chicago River like a steel spine, its girders slick with November sleet. Marcus Hayes gripped the steering wheel of his 08 F-150, knuckles dark against the cracked leather, windshield wipers losing their battle against the storm. The radio crackled with a weather advisory he'd stopped listening to 3 miles back. His mind was elsewhere, on the electric bill sitting unopened on the kitchen counter, on Jazz's volleyball tournament fee due Friday, on Maya's insistence that her sneakers still fit when they clearly didn't. The headlights caught something wrong ahead. A black Mercedes sedan, new enough to still smell like money, fishtailed across the wet pavement. Marcus's foot hovered over the brake. The luxury car's taillights painted red streaks through the downpour as it spun once, twice, then punched through the bridge railing like it was made of balsa wood. The sound was wrong. Not the metallic crunch of an action movie, but something wet and final. The Mercedes hung for half a second on the bridge's edge, nose pointed at the black water 30 feet below. Then gravity remembered its job. Marcus's truck was already pulling to the shoulder before his conscious mind caught up. Hazard lights clicked on. The engine died. Cold air hit him like a fist when he opened the door, rain horizontal and vicious. His work boots, steel-toed Red Wings with one lace held together by electrical tape, found the slick pavement. The river below churned angry and dark, swollen from 3 days of rain. The Mercedes was sinking fast, its headlights creating an eerie glow beneath the surface like a drowning star. Marcus ran to the broken railing, ice already forming on the twisted metal. Time compressed. He saw his daughters' faces, Jazz with her mother's sharp eyes, Maya with that gap-toothed smile that could make him forget about the stack of medical bills from Sarah's final year. 4 years since cancer had taken his wife. 4 years of being both parents, both providers, both the strong one and the one who cried in the shower where the girls couldn't hear. The river was 30 feet down. The water would be maybe 40 degrees. He had 90 seconds before hypothermia made his muscles useless, maybe 3 minutes before... Marcus jumped. The impact drove the air from his lungs. Cold wasn't the right word. This was something that reached inside and tried to stop his heart. The current grabbed him immediately, pulling him downstream, away from the sinking car. He fought it, arms burning, the factory floor strength in his shoulders the only thing keeping him from being swept into the black. Through the driver's window, illuminated by the car's dying interior lights, he saw her. Blonde hair floating in the rising water like seaweed, hands pressed frantically against the door, which wouldn't budge, water pressure holding it shut like a tomb. Her eyes found his through the glass. Blue eyes. Terrified blue eyes that looked at him not with hope, but with the terrible understanding that this was how it ended. Marcus's fist found the window, once, twice. His knuckles split. The third punch, fueled by every overtime shift, every moment he'd chosen to keep going when giving up would have been easier, spiderwebbed the glass. The fourth punch shattered it. Water poured into the car's interior, equalizing the pressure, and Marcus grabbed her by the shoulders of what felt like a very expensive suit jacket. She was limp now, unconscious, her face pale as paper. He kicked hard, pulling her through the window frame, ignoring the glass that opened a line across his forearm. The surface seemed impossibly far away. His lungs screamed. The woman in his arms was dead weight, her head lolling against his shoulder. 50 feet to the shore. The current wanted to take them both under the bridge supports, into the concrete pilings where the river ran fastest and meanest. Marcus kicked. His legs, strong from years of standing on factory floors, from running after 2 energetic girls, from refusing to let life beat him down, found rhythm. Stroke after stroke. The shore got closer by inches. His boot found mud, then his knee. He crawled the last 10 feet, dragging her onto the rocky bank, her body leaving a trail in the sleet-covered ground. Sirens wailed in the distance, but they might as well have been on another planet. She wasn't breathing. CPR training from a mandatory workplace certification 5 years ago came back in fragments. 30 compressions. His hands, rough and calloused from wrenches and engine parts, pressed against the sternum of a woman who probably made more in a month than he did in a year. 2 breaths. Her lips were blue. 30 more compressions. Come on. The words came out rough.
His voice had a South Side Chicago rasp earned from 20 years of living in neighborhoods where you learned early that respect was something you built, not something you inherited. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. The rain kept falling. His shoulders burned. His vision started to narrow at the edges. She coughed. Water spilled from her mouth, and she turned her head, gasping, choking, alive. Her eyes opened, those blue eyes, and found his face. Recognition flickered there, though they'd never met. Or maybe it was just the shock of being pulled back from wherever she'd been. Her hand found his arm, gripped it. Her lips moved, but he couldn't hear over the sirens and the rain and the hammering of his own heart. Then she spoke, voice barely a whisper. You weren't here by accident, were you? Marcus opened his mouth to ask what the hell that meant, but the ambulance arrived and EMTs swarmed them both. Someone wrapped a blanket around his shoulders. Someone else was asking him questions he couldn't process. Through the crowd of first responders, he saw her being loaded onto a stretcher, an oxygen mask covering her face. She was looking at him still, those eyes asking questions he didn't understand. A paramedic checked his pupils with a flashlight. Sir, you're hypothermic. We need to get you warmed up. I'm fine. Sir, I said I'm fine. Marcus pulled away, legs unsteady. His truck was still parked on the bridge, hazards blinking. The grocery bags on the passenger seat would be soaked through by now. The discount pasta, the day-old bread, the chocolate bars he'd hidden for Friday treats. All ruined. He'd have to go back to the store tomorrow, stretch the food budget even thinner. He walked back to his truck on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else, got in, started the engine. In the rearview mirror, he watched the ambulance pull away, red lights disappearing into the storm. His phone buzzed. Jazz, where are you? You said 6:30. He checked the dashboard clock. 7:15. Damn. Sorry, kiddo. Traffic. Be home in 20. The lie tasted familiar. He'd been telling versions of it for 4 years, ever since Sarah died and he'd become the sole architect of his daughter's carefully constructed normal. The house on South Hermitage Avenue had been home for 8 years. A small brick bungalow with a front porch that needed new boards and a fence that leaned slightly to the left. The neighborhood was working class, the kind of place where people knew their neighbors and minded their own business in equal measure. Street parking only, which meant Marcus had to circle the block twice before finding a spot. Inside, the smell of frozen pizza, Jazz's specialty when he worked late, greeted him. The living room was a careful arrangement of hand-me-down furniture and garage sale finds that Sarah had somehow made look intentional. Her presence lived in the Afghan draped over the couch, in the carefully arranged photos on the mantel, and the way the late afternoon light hit the window just so. Jazz stood in the kitchen doorway, 13, going on 30, wearing Sarah's expression of mild disappointment. You're soaked. It's raining. No kidding. She crossed her arms. Maya already ate. She's doing homework. Marcus peeled off his wet jacket, wincing as the movement pulled at his cut forearm. He'd wrapped it with his handkerchief, but blood was seeping through. Jazz's eyes went sharp. What happened to your arm? Nothing. Work thing. You work with cars, not razor blades. She stepped closer, and he saw Sarah even more clearly. The way she tilted her head when she knew he was lying, the set of her jaw that said she'd wait him out. Just a cut, baby girl. I'll clean it up. From the back bedroom, Maya's voice, "Dad? Is that you?" 9 years old, and still young enough to believe her father could fix anything. Marcus felt that weight settle on his shoulders, the weight of being enough, of being both parents, of keeping the ship sailing straight when the water kept getting rougher. Maya appeared in the hallway, gap-toothed smile bright, homework worksheet in hand. "I need help with number 7. It's about fractions."
"Give me 5 minutes to change, okay?" He retreated to his bedroom, the one he'd shared with Sarah, the one where he'd held her hand through those final, terrible weeks. Her perfume bottle still sat on the dresser, 3/4 empty, and some nights, when the loneliness got too heavy, he'd open it just to breathe her in. In the bathroom, he peeled off his soaked shirt. The cut on his forearm was shallow but angry-looking, the edges ragged from broken glass. He cleaned it with peroxide, watching the foam turn pink, then bandaged it with supplies from under the sink. His reflection in the mirror showed a 40-year-old man who looked older, lines around his eyes from squinting at engine schematics, gray creeping into his close-cropped hair, shoulders still broad but carrying burdens that had nothing to do with physical weight. The man in the mirror had once been an engineer, had once worn a tie to work, and sat in meetings where people valued his opinion. That man had been laid off 6 years ago when Westlake Industries downsized, had spent 3 months sending out resumes that went nowhere, had finally taken a job as a mechanic at Tommy's auto shop because pride didn't pay for chemotherapy. Fresh clothes, jeans and a faded Bulls sweatshirt. When he came back out, Jazz was setting the table with the careful precision she brought to everything. Plates aligned just so, forks and knives in proper position, paper towels folded into triangles because they couldn't afford cloth napkins. Dinner was quiet. Maya chattered about her day, something about a boy named Brandon who ate paste, about her teacher, Mrs. Henderson, who let them have extra recess. Jazz picked at her pizza, a sure sign something was on her mind. "Spit it out, Jazz." She looked up. "Coach says if I want to stay on varsity, I need to go to the tournament in Milwaukee next month. It's $300. $300. Marcus did the math in his head, the same math he did every night, juggling which bills could wait, which couldn't. The electric company had already sent a final notice. The bank had left 2 messages about the mortgage. $300 might as well have been $3 million. "I'll figure it out." "Dad, it's okay if—" "I said I'll figure it out." The words came out harder than he meant. Maya's smile dimmed. Jazz's face closed off, walls going up, and Marcus hated himself a little. "I'm sorry. Long day. But we'll make it work, okay? You're the best middle blocker in the district. Coach wouldn't have asked if he didn't think you could make varsity." Jazz nodded, but the light hadn't quite come back to her eyes. After dinner, she cleared the dishes without being asked. Another Sarah trait, this need to be helpful, to carry more than her share. Marcus helped Maya with her fractions at the kitchen table, his mind only half present. The other half kept replaying those moments in the river, the weight of the woman in his arms, the terrible stillness of her face, the way her eyes had opened and looked at him like she knew something he didn't. By 9, both girls were in bed. Marcus sat in the living room with the lights off, staring at the stack of bills on the coffee table. Electric, $247, past due. Mortgage, $1,340, due in 6 days. Medical bills from Sarah's last hospital stay, $47,000 remaining after insurance. In collections, garnishing 10% of every paycheck. Car insurance, internet, groceries, Maya's asthma inhaler refill. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Creditors had his cell number, and he was too tired to explain again that he was paying what he could, but something made him swipe to accept. "Mr. Hayes?" A woman's voice, professional, the kind of voice that had been trained to sound warm while maintaining distance. "Speaking."
My name is Catherine Moore. I work for Sophia Reynolds. I believe you pulled Ms. Reynolds from the Chicago River earlier this evening? The blonde woman, the Mercedes, those blue eyes asking him a question he still didn't understand. Is she okay? She's fine, thanks to you. Ms. Reynolds would like to thank you personally. Would you be available tomorrow morning, say 9 o'clock? Marcus looked at the bills, looked at the mortgage statement with its red final notice stamp. I work at 9. Ms. Reynolds would like to make it worth your time. She's prepared to compensate you for taking the morning off. Something in his gut twisted. I don't need compensation. I'm glad she's okay. That's enough. A pause. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Reynolds is quite insistent. She doesn't like to be in anyone's debt. Tell her she's not. He ended the call. But sleep didn't come easy that night. He lay in bed, listening to the house settle, to the distant sound of sirens on Western Avenue, to the furnace kicking on with its familiar rattle. His mind kept circling back to the river, to the weight of her in his arms, to that strange thing she'd said. You weren't here by accident. Morning came with weak November light filtering through cheap blinds. Marcus was up at 5, as always, old habits from factory work, when the first shift started at 6 and being late meant losing the job. He made coffee in the ancient Mr. Coffee machine that had been a wedding present, its glass carafe cracked but still functional. The kitchen was quiet. This was his time, these early hours before the girls woke, when he could just exist without having to be strong or certain or enough. At 6, he started breakfast. Scrambled eggs, 4 eggs split 3 ways because a dozen had to last the week. Toast from the day-old bread, spread thin with margarine. Jazz appeared at 6:30, already dressed for school, hair pulled back in a ponytail that she'd learned to do herself on YouTube. You sleep okay, Dad? Like a baby. Another lie. They were getting easier. Maya stumbled out at 6:45, still in her pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She climbed into her chair and put her head down on the table. Morning, sunshine. It's too early. It's the same time as every day. Every day is too early. He smiled, despite the weight on his chest. These moments, Maya's grumpiness, Jazz's careful competence, the simple rhythm of breakfast and backpacks and making sure everyone had what they needed. These were the anchors that kept him from drifting. At 7:30, he walked them to the bus stop 3 blocks away. The air was cold and sharp, the kind that promised snow before Thanksgiving. Jazz had her volleyball bag over one shoulder, Maya her backpack decorated with unicorn stickers. Other kids gathered at the corner, the Martinez twins, the Johnson boy, a few others whose names Marcus knew because in this neighborhood, parents looked out for each other's kids. The bus arrived. Jazz turned before boarding. You working late again? Regular shift today. I'll be home by 6. She studied his face, looking for the lie, then nodded. Maya waved from the bus window as it pulled away, her small hand pressed against the glass. Marcus walked back to the house through streets that had been home his whole life. He'd grown up 2 neighborhoods over, in Englewood, back when it was still safe to play in the streets after dark. His mother had worked 3 jobs to keep him and his sister fed. His father had left when Marcus was 7, and that absence had taught him early that showing up was 90% of the battle. He'd promised himself his kids would have better. That promise had survived college at UIC on scholarships and loans, had survived landing an engineering job at Westlake Industries, had survived marrying Sarah in a small ceremony at her parents' church. That promise had even survived the layoff, though it had been tested. What the promise hadn't survived was cancer. Hadn't survived watching Sarah waste away in hospice. Hadn't survived the bills that came after. Hadn't survived the realization that sometimes trying your hardest still wasn't enough. At the house, he changed into his work clothes, Dickies coveralls with Marcus stitched over the breast pocket, steel-toed boots, a thermal shirt against the cold. His work truck was parked on the street, a 202 F-150 that Tommy had sold him for cheap when the transmission went out, and Marcus had rebuilt it himself in the shop after hours. Tommy's auto shop sat on Ashland Avenue, a squat brick building with 3 bays and a sign that hadn't been updated since 1987. Tommy Kozlowski had owned it for 40 years, had hired Marcus when no one else would, had never once made him feel small for taking a mechanic's job when he had an engineering degree. The shop smelled like oil and metal and coffee that had been on the burner too long. Marcus clocked in at 8, grabbed his first work order, brake job on a Honda Civic, and got to work. His hands knew these rhythms: jack the car, remove the wheels, inspect the rotors, replace the pads. Mechanical, predictable, honest work that left you dirty but didn't leave you wondering if you mattered. At 9:15, Tommy appeared in the bay doorway. 65 years old, built like a fire hydrant, with hands that could rebuild a carburetor blindfolded. "Marcus, you got a visitor. Tell them I'm busy. I think you want to see this one." Something in Tommy's voice made Marcus look up. Through the bay door, parked in the lot where customers usually left their Toyotas and Chevys, sat 3 black Mercedes sedans. Gleaming. New. The kind of cars that didn't come to South Side auto shops. From the middle vehicle stepped a woman in a charcoal business suit that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. Blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun, blue eyes that he'd last seen in river water, terrified and drowning. Sophia Reynolds walked into the shop like she owned it, not arrogant, just the kind of confidence that came from never having to wonder if you belonged somewhere. She stopped a few feet from Marcus's workstation, seemingly unbothered by the oil stains or the smell or the fact that he was holding a brake caliper and probably looked like he'd crawled out from under a car. "Mr. Hayes." Her voice was different from the night before, stronger, the voice of someone who ran things. "Ma'am?" He set down the caliper, wiped his hands on a shop rack. "You doing okay?" "Thanks to you." She glanced around the shop, not judgmental, just taking it in. "I tried calling last night." "I know. I told your assistant I didn't need anything." "And I told Catherine I don't like being in people's debt." She reached into her bag, pulled out an envelope. $20,000. A token of my appreciation. The number hit him like a fist. 20,000. That was the mortgage, the electric bill, Jazz's tournament, Maya's inhaler, 6 months of breathing room. That was the weight on his chest getting just a little lighter. He didn't take the envelope. "I appreciate it, but I can't accept that." Her expression didn't change. "Why not?" "Because I didn't pull you out of that river for money. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Most people in your position wouldn't turn down $20,000. I'm not most people." Something flickered in her eyes. Not surprise, more like confirmation of something she'd already suspected. She put the envelope back in her bag. "Then let me offer you something else. A job." Marcus laughed, couldn't help it. "Ma'am, I appreciate the thought, but I've got a job." "You're wasting your talent here, Mr. Hayes. I've done my research. University of Illinois, mechanical engineering degree. 5 years at Westlake Industries before they downsized. You designed the cooling system for their Model 7 hydraulic press. I read the patent application. That's not mechanic work. That's engineering." The fact that she knew all this should have felt invasive. Instead, it just felt exhausting. That was a long time ago. 6 years, not a lifetime. Long enough. He picked up the caliper again, a clear signal that this conversation was over. "I've got work to do." She didn't leave. "My father owned Westlake Industries. Did you know that?" Marcus's hand stilled. "What?" "Daniel Reynolds. He sold the company 8 years ago to a private equity firm. They're the ones who laid off half the workforce, including you. My father would have handled things differently if he'd still been in charge." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I run Horizon Technologies now. We develop medical equipment, specifically a portable dialysis machine called the LifeStream. It's designed for use in underserved areas, rural communities, low-income neighborhoods, places where traditional dialysis centers don't exist or aren't accessible. She paused. We're having filtration problems. The system's too complex, fails too often in the field. We need someone who understands practical engineering, not just theory. Someone who can look at a problem and see the simple solution. You have a whole company of engineers. I have a whole company of people who've never had to fix something with duct tape and ingenuity because there was no other option. You have. I can see it in how you work. She gestured at the Honda on the lift. You don't just replace parts. You understand systems. That's what I need. $20,000 he'd turned down. Now she was offering him a way back to the work he'd loved, the work he'd been good at, the thing he'd given up not because he wanted to, but because life had demanded it. I can't. Why not? Because I have 2 daughters who depend on me. I can't risk a job that might not work out. The salary is $200,000 a year, full benefits, signing bonus of $50,000. She said it like she was reading a grocery list. You'd start as director of engineering for the LifeStream project. If it works out, there's room for advancement. 200,000. The number was so far outside his reality that it didn't even register as real money. It was fantasy money, lottery money, money that people like him didn't get to have. I don't have the qualifications you're looking for. You have exactly the qualifications I'm looking for. You just don't see it yet. She pulled a business card from her bag, set it on his workbench. Heavy cardstock, embossed letters. Think about it. Call me when you're ready. She turned to leave, then stopped. Mr. Hayes, last night in the water, I was certain I was going to die. And then you appeared. And you didn't hesitate. You didn't calculate the risk or wonder if it was worth it. You just acted. That's the kind of person I need on my team. After she left, Marcus stood in the bay for a long time, the business card next to his socket wrench, the smell of brake dust and possibility hanging in the air. Tommy appeared in the doorway again. That was Sophia Reynolds, CEO of Horizon Technologies. Her company's worth about $2 billion. I know who she is. What'd she want? To offer me a job? Tommy's eyebrows went up. And I don't know. Marcus picked up the card, turned it over. On the back, handwritten in precise script, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is believe we deserve better. S.R. You gonna call her? Probably not. But he didn't throw the card away. That night, after the girls were asleep, he sat at the kitchen table with his laptop, a 7-year-old Dell that took 5 minutes to boot up, and looked up Horizon Technologies. The website showed a sleek glass building in the West Loop, pictures of smiling employees, a mission statement about using technology to improve lives. He found articles about Sophia Reynolds, 38 years old, took over the company 3 years ago when her father died. Harvard MBA, Forbes 30 under 30. A photo of her at some charity gala, wearing an evening gown that probably cost more than his car, looking beautiful and untouchable, and nothing like the terrified woman he'd pulled from the river. He found information about the LifeStream, portable dialysis machine, revolutionary design, intended for deployment in areas without access to traditional medical facilities. Clinical trials showing promising results. But development delays, technical problems, filtration system failures. He could fix it. He knew he could. The problem wasn't the technology. It was that the engineers designing it had never had to make something work in the real world, where things broke and stayed broken unless you built them simple and durable. But taking the job meant risk, meant leaving the certainty of Tommy's shop for the unknowns of a corporate environment he'd been away from for 6 years, meant believing he still had value beyond his ability to turn a wrench, meant believing that maybe, just maybe, He deserved better than barely scraping by. The business card sat on the table, Sophia Reynolds' handwriting catching the light. Jazz's tournament fee notice was right next to it. $300 that might as well have been $3 million. Or it might as well have been nothing if he made $200,000 a year. Marcus picked up his phone, put it down, picked it up again.
The clock on the wall, Sarah's sunflower clock, the one she'd bought at a garage sale and loved for reasons he never quite understood, ticked past midnight. He dialed. 3 rings. A professional voice. Sophia Reynolds' office? This is Marcus Hayes. Is she available? One moment, Mr. Hayes. A click. Then her voice, not sleepy despite the late hour. I was hoping you'd call. The job. I want to hear more about it. Can you come to my office tomorrow? Say 2 o'clock? He thought about the break jobs on tomorrow's schedule, about the steady paycheck, about the safety of knowing exactly what each day would bring. Then he thought about Jazz's face when he told her he couldn't afford the tournament, about Maya's sneakers with the holes in the toes, about the stack of bills that never seemed to get smaller. I'll be there. Good. A pause. Mr. Hayes, you won't regret this. After he hung up, he sat in the dark kitchen for a long time, Sarah's picture on the fridge watching him with that smile that had always made him feel like he could handle anything. He wondered what she'd think of this decision, this leap into uncertainty. But he already knew. Sarah had always been the brave one, the one who pushed him to dream bigger than the hand they'd been dealt. She would have told him to jump, just like he'd jumped into that river. The difference was, this time, he didn't know if he could swim. The Horizon Technologies building rose 40 stories into the Chicago skyline, all glass and steel that caught the afternoon sun and threw it back like a challenge. Marcus stood on the sidewalk outside, wearing the one suit he owned, bought for Sarah's funeral 4 years ago, still smelling faintly of mothballs despite the dry cleaning he'd splurged on that morning. The pants were a little loose now. Grief and poverty both had a way of making a man thinner. Inside, the lobby was all marble and chrome, the kind of space designed to make visitors feel small. A security desk staffed by 2 guards in crisp uniforms, a wall of elevators with brushed steel doors. Marcus gave his name to the guard, who checked a tablet and nodded. 40th floor, Mr. Hayes. Ms. Reynolds is expecting you. The elevator was empty except for him and his reflection in the mirrored walls. The suit didn't fit right anymore. His tie, one of 3 he owned, was slightly crooked no matter how many times he straightened it. He looked like exactly what he was, a man pretending to belong somewhere he didn't. The 40th floor opened onto a reception area that could have swallowed his entire house. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that was more art than function. A receptionist behind a desk made of wood so perfect it had to cost more than his truck. Mr. Hayes, Miss Reynolds will see you now. Sophia's office was corner-facing, windows on 2 sides, the Chicago River visible far below. She stood when he entered, came around her desk to shake his hand. Up close, without the terror of drowning in her eyes, she was striking in a way that felt almost aggressive. Everything about her was precise, the cut of her suit, the angle of her hair, the firm grip of her handshake. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the opportunity. She gestured to a chair, waited for him to sit before taking her own seat. Between them, her desk held a laptop, a slim leather portfolio, and a framed photo of an older man with kind eyes and graying temples. My father, Daniel Reynolds. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. It's been 3 years, but some days it feels like yesterday. She opened the portfolio. Before we discuss the position, I want to be transparent about something. My father sold Westlake Industries 8 years ago to Garrison Capital Partners. They're the ones who gutted the workforce, who valued short-term profits over people's livelihoods. If my father had known what they'd do, he never would have sold.
He built that company on the principle that the people who worked there mattered more than the bottom line. Marcus shifted in his chair. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserved better than what happened. Because I want you to know that what I'm offering isn't charity or guilt. It's recognition of what you're capable of. She slid a folder across the desk. This is the Lifestream project. Take a look. Inside were technical specifications, diagrams, photos of a machine about the size of a large suitcase. Sleek design, touchscreen interface, compact enough to be portable, but complex enough that Marcus could see the problems before he even read the notes. The filtration system is the issue. We've gone through 4 iterations and each one fails in field testing.
Either the filters clog too quickly, or the cleaning mechanism malfunctions, or the power requirements are too high for areas with unreliable electricity. Sophia leaned forward. We've thrown some of the best minds in biomedical engineering at this problem. They keep making it more complex, adding more fail-safes, more redundancies. But complexity is the problem, not the solution. Marcus studied the diagrams. Dual-chamber filtration, recirculation pumps, automated cleaning cycles triggered by pressure sensors. All beautifully designed, all overthought. You need a simpler approach. 2-stage filtration, 1 coarse filter to catch large particles, 1 fine filter for the actual dialysis. Skip the automated cleaning. Make the filters modular, easy to swap out in the field. Reduce the moving parts by half. Sophia smiled. That's what I thought when I first saw your work at Westlake. You see the elegant solution where others see the need for more engineering. It's not genius.
It's just experience. When you can't afford to replace things, you learn to build them so they don't break in the first place. Which is exactly why I need you. She pulled another document from the portfolio. Director of Engineering, Lifestream Division, $200,000 annual salary, $50,000 signing bonus, full medical and dental for you and your daughters, 4 weeks paid vacation, stock options that vest over 4 years. The numbers were real now, printed in black and white. Marcus read the contract twice, looking for the catch. There had to be one. Nobody gave this kind of money to a man who spent his days under cars. When would you need me to start? 2 weeks. That gives you time to wrap up at your current position, get your daughters settled. We'll cover relocation assistance if you want to move closer to the office. I'm not relocating. My daughter's school, their friends, everything they know. It's on the south side. Then we'll make it work. The commute is manageable. She slid a pen across the desk. I won't pressure you to decide now. Take the contract home, think it over, discuss it with your family. But Marcus was already reading the clause about medical benefits. Full coverage, no deductible, prescriptions included. Maya's asthma medication alone cost $200 a month. Jazz would be able to see a dentist for the first time in 3 years. He picked up the pen, signed on the line marked Employee. Sophia's smile was genuine this time, reaching her eyes. Welcome to Horizon Technologies, Mr. Hayes. They shook hands again, and Marcus felt the weight of what he'd just done settle over him like snow. This was it. The moment everything changed. For better or worse, he'd just bet his daughter's future on his ability to be something more than a mechanic. Telling Tommy was harder than signing the contract. The old man listened in silence as Marcus explained, standing in the shop office with its ancient filing cabinets and calendar from 1998 that nobody had bothered to replace. 200 grand, huh? Yes, sir. That's good money. Real good money. Tommy pulled a rag from his pocket, wiped his hands even though they were already clean. You'd be stupid not to take it. I'm giving you 2 weeks' notice. I'll finish everything on my schedule, train whoever you bring in to replace me. Can't replace you, Marcus. You're the best mechanic I've had in 40 years. Tommy's eyes were wet, but his voice stayed steady. But you were never meant to be here long term. You got too much talent to waste it on brake jobs and oil changes. This place saved my life when nobody else would hire me.
And you saved mine right back. Shop would have gone under 3 years ago if you hadn't rebuilt that lift motor when I couldn't afford a new one.
Tommy stuck out his hand. I'm proud of you, son. Your wife would be too. That night, Marcus called the girls into the living room. They sat on the couch, Jazz cross-legged with her phone face down beside her, Maya curled up with her stuffed rabbit, and looked at him with varying degrees of suspicion. Serious family meetings usually meant bad news. I got a new job. Maya's face lit up. Does that mean we can get a puppy? No puppies. But it does mean some things are going to change. Good changes. He explained about Horizon Technologies, about the Lifestream project, about the salary that was more money than he'd ever made in his life. Jazz's expression went from skeptical to calculating. How much more are we talking about? Enough that you don't have to worry about tournament fees anymore. Enough that Maya can get new shoes that actually fit. Enough that we can maybe start putting money away for college. Dad. Jazz's voice went soft. Are you serious? Dead serious. Maya launched herself at him, rabbit and all, wrapping her arms around his neck. Does this mean I can do art camp this summer? Maybe. Let's see how things go first. But Jazz stayed on the couch, her face unreadable. Marcus knew that look. She was working through the angles, trying to find the problem he wasn't telling them about. What's wrong, baby girl? Nothing. It's great. I'm happy for you. But her voice said otherwise. After Maya went to bed, Marcus found Jazz in her room, supposedly doing homework, but really just staring at her math textbook. He sat on the edge of her bed, the mattress dipping under his weight. Talk to me. It's stupid. Not if it's bothering you. She closed the textbook. What if you're not good enough? What if they realize they made a mistake hiring you, and then you lose the job, and we're worse off than before? The fear in her voice was his fear, the one he'd been trying not to think about since he signed that contract. Jazz had learned too young that security was fragile, that good things could be taken away without warning. Cancer had taught her that. Poverty had reinforced it. That might happen. I can't promise it won't. He took her hand. But I can promise that even if it does, we'll figure it out. We always do. Because you always take care of us. Because we take care of each other. You, me, and Maya. That doesn't change, no matter what job I have. She nodded, but the worry didn't leave her eyes. At 13, she'd already learned that the world didn't care about promises. It cared about what you could prove day after day, until you couldn't prove it anymore. The first day at Horizon Technologies started at 8 a.m. sharp. Marcus wore his funeral suit again, this time with a new tie that Jazz had picked out during a quick trip to Target. Navy blue with thin silver stripes, professional without being flashy. He left the house at 6:30 to beat traffic, arriving 40 minutes early and spending the extra time in his truck reviewing the technical documents Sophia had sent him. The employee entrance was different from the main lobby, less impressive, more functional. He badged in with the temporary ID they'd issued him, took the elevator to the 14th floor, where the engineering division was housed. The open floor plan was all glass walls and standing desks, young engineers in jeans and hoodies clustered around monitors showing CAD models and simulation data. Marcus felt ancient, overdressed, like someone's dad who'd wandered into the wrong building. A woman in her mid-30s approached, hand extended, smile warm. Marcus Hayes? I'm Rachel Morgan, lead engineer on Lifestream. Sophia said you'd be joining us today. Rachel had the kind of easy competence that came from being very good at her job and knowing it. She wore jeans and a Horizon Technologies polo, blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and when she shook his hand, her grip was firm. Let me show you around. Fair warning, we're a little chaotic, but the work is good. She led him through the floor, introducing him to a blur of faces and names he'd never remember. Young engineers, most of them fresh out of elite programs, all of them brilliant and eager and slightly terrified of failure. The Lifestream project took up an entire corner of the floor, workstations surrounded by whiteboards covered in equations, prototypes in various states of assembly, a testing area with medical-grade simulation equipment. "This is your space." Rachel gestured to a standing desk near the windows, already equipped with dual monitors and a desktop computer that probably cost more than his truck. "Sophia wanted you to have natural light. Said it helps with creative problem solving." "This is too much." "This is standard for directors. Wait until you see what the VPs get." She pulled over a chair. "So, Sophia mentioned you have some ideas about the filtration system?" Marcus looked at the latest prototype on the nearest workbench, elegant and complicated, and doomed to fail. "Can I be honest?" "Please." "You're overthinking it. All of you. You're so focused on making it perfect that you've forgotten it needs to be practical." Rachel's smile didn't dim. "That's the nicest way anyone's ever told me my life's work is garbage." "I didn't say, no, you're right. We've been stuck in our own heads for months. Fresh perspective is exactly what we need." She handed him a tablet. "These are the field test failure reports. Read through them, see what patterns you find. We've got teams stand up at 10, and you can present your initial assessment." The reports painted a clear picture. The filtration system was failing because it was too sensitive. Too many moving parts that could break. Too many sensors that could malfunction. Too much reliance on perfect conditions that didn't exist in rural Tennessee or inner-city Detroit or anywhere else the Lifestream was supposed to work. At 10, the team gathered in a conference room with glass walls overlooking the city. 12 engineers, all younger than Marcus, all with degrees from places like MIT and Stanford and Carnegie Mellon. Rachel made introductions, and Marcus felt their eyes on him. The old guy in the suit, the outsider who'd somehow landed a director position. And then there was Victor Blackwood. He walked in last, late, carrying a coffee in a mug that said, "World's Best CFO," in ironic quotation marks. 55, white hair still thick, wearing a suit that cost more than Marcus's car. He took the seat at the head of the table like it was his by right, and when his eyes landed on Marcus, something flickered there. Recognition. Victor Blackwood, Chief Financial Officer. His handshake was limp, dismissive. "You're the new director? Marcus Hayes?" "Yes, sir." Hayes. That name's familiar. Victor's eyes narrowed. "Did you work at Westlake Industries 6, 7 years ago?" Marcus's stomach dropped. "I did." "Thought so. You were in the engineering department, part of the downsizing in 18. Victor smiled, and there was nothing friendly in it. "Small world. Welcome back to the corporate sector, Mr. Hayes. Try to last longer this time." The room went silent. Rachel's face flushed. A young engineer named David looked down at his laptop like it might save him. Victor sipped his coffee, unbothered. "Actually, Victor, I was the one who signed off on those layoffs, so if anyone's responsible for Mr. Hayes being here, it's me." Sophia's voice cut through the tension like a blade. She stood in the doorway, and Marcus hadn't even heard her approach. "I think you'll find his experience is exactly what this project needs." Victor's smile didn't waver. "Of course, Sophia. I'm sure you know best." The meeting proceeded with painful professionalism. Rachel walked through the latest test results. An engineer named Tom presented options for redesigning the pump system. Everyone carefully avoided looking at Marcus or Victor. When it was his turn, Marcus stood, feeling every eye on him. He pulled up the failure reports on the screen. "The problem isn't the filtration technology. It's the complexity. You've designed this for perfect conditions, clean power, trained operators, climate-controlled environments. But that's not where it's going to be used." He clicked to a photo from the field tests.
This is a clinic in rural Mississippi. No backup generator.
No air conditioning. The tech who runs it is a nurse practitioner who learned dialysis from YouTube videos. She's brilliant and dedicated, but she's not an engineer. If something breaks, she can't fix it. He switched to the CAD model of the current design. Right now, you have 17 moving parts in the filtration assembly alone. Each one is a potential failure point. What we need is a system that can be maintained by someone with basic tools and common sense. Victor leaned back in his chair. Mr. Hayes, with all due respect, you've been here for 4 hours. Our team has been working on this for 3 years. Which might be why you can't see the simple solution anymore. The silence was sharp enough to cut. Victor's eyes went cold. But before he could respond, Sophia spoke up. Go on, Marcus. What's your proposal? 2-stage filtration. 1 coarse filter, standard mesh, you can buy it at any medical supply company, catches large particles. 1 fine filter handles the actual dialysis. Make both filters modular. When they clog, you pop them out, pop new ones in. No tools, no technical knowledge needed. The whole assembly has 3 moving parts total. Rachel was nodding. That could work. The efficiency would be slightly lower, but the reliability gain would more than compensate. It won't work. Victor set down his coffee. You're proposing we throw out 3 years of development and start over based on a mechanic's hunch? I'm proposing we build something that actually functions in the real world. The real world requires sophistication, Mr. Hayes, not shade tree engineering. Heat rose in Marcus's chest. The dismissiveness in Victor's voice, the casual contempt. It was every corporate asshole who'd ever looked down on him for getting his hands dirty, every manager who'd valued credentials over competence. But before he could respond, Sophia stood. Thank you, Marcus. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Rachel, I want you and Marcus to work up a prototype of his design. Victor, I'll need you to run cost projections on simplified manufacturing. She looked directly at the CFO. This project succeeds because we're willing to challenge our assumptions. That includes assumptions about who belongs in this room. After the meeting, Marcus found himself alone in his new office, staring at the city below. His hands were shaking, adrenaline from the confrontation, from Victor's casual cruelty, from the realization that this wasn't just a job. It was walking back into a world that had already rejected him once. Rachel knocked on his glass door, stuck her head in. For what it's worth, I think you're right about the filtration system. And Victor's an asshole to everyone, not just you. That's supposed to make me feel better? Little bit, yeah. She came in, closed the door behind her. Look, Sophia doesn't hire people on a whim. If she brought you in, it's because she believes you can deliver. Don't let Victor's bullshit get in your head. Too late for that. Then let me give you some advice. Victor's been here since Sophia's father ran the company. He thinks he's untouchable because Daniel trusted him, but Sophia sees through him. She's just waiting for the right moment to move him out. Rachel leaned against his desk. Your job isn't to fight Victor, it's to prove him wrong. Build the thing that works and let the results speak. After she left, Marcus pulled up the CAD software and started sketching. The dual-stage design took shape on the screen. Simple, elegant, achievable. This was what he was good at. Not office politics or corporate maneuvering, just solving problems with tools and logic. His phone buzzed. Jazz. How's the first day? Complicated, but good. How's school? Same. Maya forgot her lunch, so I shared mine. Of course she had. Jazz, taking care of everyone, just like her mother. Marcus sent back a heart emoji, the most emotion he could manage through text, and got back to work. The next 3 days were a blur of CAD models and material specifications and meetings with suppliers who could provide the simpler components Marcus's design required. Rachel proved to be an invaluable ally, her engineering knowledge filling in the gaps in his own. her institutional knowledge helping him navigate Horizon's bureaucracy. They built the first prototype in 72 hours. It sat on the workbench in the testing lab, looking almost crude compared to the sleek designs that had come before. But when they ran it through the simulation, testing it with blood substitute fluid, pushing it through cycles that mimicked months of use, it worked. Sophia came down to see it on Friday afternoon, Victor trailing behind her like a shadow. The CFO hadn't spoken to Marcus directly since that first meeting, but his presence was constant, showing up at reviews, questioning design choices, finding ways to slow things down without appearing obstructive. Talk me through it.
Sophia stood in front of the prototype, hands in her pockets. Marcus walked her through the system. Coarse filter, fine filter, simple pump mechanism. No sensors to fail, no automated cleaning cycles to malfunction. If something broke, you could fix it with a screwdriver and replacement parts that cost dollars, not thousands. The test results? Rachel pulled up data on her tablet. 96% filtration efficiency. That's only 2% below the complex design, but with a mean time between failures that's 30 times longer. And the cost per unit drops from $45,000 to $18,000. Victor cleared his throat. $18,000 is still too expensive for the target market. These rural clinics you're so concerned about can't afford that. Which is why we're partnering with state health departments and nonprofits to subsidize the cost. Sophia didn't look at Victor. Marcus, this is good work. How long until we can do field testing? 2 weeks for manufacturing, another 2 for distribution and setup. We could have results by end of January. Make it happen. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Marcus? Good job. Your instincts were right. After she left, Victor lingered. He walked slowly around the prototype, hands clasped behind his back, expression unreadable. You think you've won something here? Marcus didn't respond. He'd learned a long time ago that some conversations were traps. Sophia's brilliant, but she's young, idealistic. She thinks technology can save the world, that good intentions are enough. Victor stopped, looked directly at Marcus. But I've been in this business for 30 years. I know what happens to companies that chase humanitarian goals instead of profits. They fail. And when they do, everyone loses their job, including you. The live stream can be both humanitarian and profitable.
Can it? Because right now you've cut the profit margin to almost nothing. The board won't tolerate that indefinitely. Victor smiled. Enjoy your little victory, Mr. Hayes. But remember, companies like Horizon don't stay in business by being charitable. Eventually, reality catches up. He walked away, leaving Marcus alone with the prototype and a creeping sense of unease. Victor wasn't wrong about the economics. Even at $18,000 per unit, the margins were thin. If something went wrong, if the field tests failed, if the board decided the live stream wasn't worth the investment. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Marcus almost didn't answer, but something made him swipe to accept. Mr. Hayes? A woman's voice, professional, unfamiliar. Speaking. My name is Catherine Moore. I'm a reporter with the Chicago Tribune. I'm doing a story on Horizon Technologies and their livestream project. I was hoping to speak with you about your role. I can't comment on company business. You'd need to talk to our PR department. Of course, but off the record, I'm curious. How does it feel to be working for the daughter of the man whose company laid you off? Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. Where did you hear that? I'm a reporter. It's my job to know things. A pause. I'm also interested in the relationship between Sophia Reynolds and certain board members, specifically concerns about conflicts of interest regarding the Livestream project. I don't know anything about that. But you're working directly with Ms. Reynolds. You must have some insights into how decisions are being made. I need to go. Mr. Hayes, if there's anything you'd like to share. He ended the call. His hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't adrenaline. It was anger. Someone had leaked information about his past with Westlake. Someone had pointed a reporter in his direction. The most likely candidate wore expensive suits and called himself the CFO. Marcus pulled up his email, found the thread with Sophia's assistant, and typed, "Need to speak with Ms. Reynolds. Urgent." The response came back in under a minute. "She's available now, 40th floor." Sophia's office was empty except for her. She sat behind her desk, the city lights starting to come on as evening fell, and when Marcus entered, she gestured to the chair across from her. "What's wrong?" He told her about the reporter's call, about the questions regarding his history with Westlake, about the implications of conflict of interest. Sophia listened without interrupting, her expression growing colder with each detail. Catherine Moore's a tabloid journalist masquerading as serious news. She's been trying to get dirt on Horizon for months. Sophia pulled out her phone, typed something quickly. "I'll have our legal team send her a cease and desist. But Marcus, I need you to understand something." She stood, walked to the window. From up here, Chicago looked like a circuit board, lights and connections stretching to the horizon. "My father built this company on the principle that business could be a force for good, that making money and helping people weren't mutually exclusive goals. When he died," her voice caught just for a moment. "When he died, there were people who saw it as an opportunity. Board members who wanted to pivot away from humanitarian work, who thought the live stream was a waste of resources. Victor was one of them." "You think he's the leak?" "I think Victor remembers a version of this company where profit was the only metric that mattered, and he wants to go back to that." She turned to face Marcus. "Your success with the live stream threatens his vision, which means he's going to come after you however he can." "So what do I do?" "You keep doing what you're doing. You build the thing that works, and you trust that I won't let him destroy you." She came back to her desk, pulled a folder from a drawer. "This is what I should have told you before I hired you. My father didn't just own Westlake. He died 3 years ago in a car accident. Single vehicle crash on a mountain road. Police ruled it an accident, but you don't think it was. I think my father had enemies, people who stood to gain from his death." She handed him the folder. Inside were police reports, newspaper clippings, photos of twisted metal on a guardrail. He'd discovered financial irregularities at Horizon, millions of dollars unaccounted for. He was going to go public, bring in auditors, and then he died. Marcus looked up from the photos. "You think someone at Horizon killed him?" "I think someone didn't want him asking questions. And when you start threatening the status quo, when you challenge the way things have always been done," she took the folder back. "I'm telling you this because I need you to be careful. Victor is more dangerous than he appears." "Then why not fire him?" "Because I need proof. And because the board trusts him more than they trust me. I'm young, female, too idealistic. Vera's been here since my father started the company. He has allies I don't." Her eyes were hard now, all the vulnerability from the river gone. "But I'm patient, and I'm building my case. The live stream's success is part of that. When we prove that humanitarian work can be profitable, when we show the board that my father's vision was viable, then I'll have the leverage I need." Marcus understood. He wasn't just an engineer. He was a piece on the chessboard, part of a larger game he hadn't realized he was playing. "What happens if the live stream fails?" "Then Victor wins, and everything my father built gets dismantled in favor of quarterly earnings reports." She met his eyes. "No pressure." He almost laughed.
The absurdity of it, a mechanic from the South Side suddenly responsible for a corporate power struggle and the future of medical technology for underserved communities. If Sarah could see him now, she'd have some choice words about getting in over his head.
But she'd also tell him to fight, to prove that people like them, people who came from nothing, who worked with their hands, who knew what it meant to struggle, had just as much right to build the future as anyone else.
I won't let you down. I know you won't. Sophia's smile was tired. Go home, Marcus. Kiss your daughters. This will all still be here on Monday.
The weekend was supposed to be normal. Saturday morning, Maya had a soccer game. Her team lost 4-2, but she scored a goal that had her bouncing with excitement all the way home. Jazz had volleyball practice, and afterward, Marcus took them both to Lou Malnati's for deep dish pizza they could actually afford now. Sunday, he did laundry and fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom and helped Maya with a school project about the solar system. Normal things. Dad things. The kind of routine that kept the world stable. But his mind was elsewhere. On the prototype sitting in Horizon's lab. On Victor's warning about reality catching up. On Sophia's revelation about her father's death. He kept checking his phone, half expecting another call from that reporter, another piece of evidence that his presence at Horizon was causing problems. Jazz noticed. She always noticed. Dad, you're being weird. They were in the kitchen, Marcus washing dishes while Jazz dried. Maya was in the living room, already in pajamas, watching a cartoon about talking animals saving the environment. Just thinking about work stuff. Is it going bad? No, it's going good. That's what's weird. He handed her a plate. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe there is no other shoe. Maybe you're just good at your job and that's okay. He looked at his daughter, barely 13, already carrying wisdom that should have taken decades to earn. Sarah had been like that too, able to cut through his anxiety with simple truth. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just notice more now that you're not exhausted all the time. She was right. The constant stress of barely making ends meet had been like white noise, so constant he'd stopped hearing it. Now, with a real salary and benefits and the ability to buy groceries without calculating every dollar, he could actually breathe. But breathing meant noticing other things, like the fact that he was out of his depth at Horizon, like the fact that Victor Blackwood had reasons to want him gone, like the fact that Sophia Reynolds had hired him not just for his engineering skills, but as a weapon in a war he didn't fully understand. Monday morning, everything fell apart. Marcus arrived at the office to find security guards waiting at his desk. Rachel stood nearby, face pale, and when she saw him, she shook her head slightly, a warning. Mr. Hayes, you need to come with us. The guard was polite but firm. Mrs. Reynolds wants to see you immediately. He followed them to the 40th floor, his mind racing through possibilities. Had the reporter published something? Had Victor found a way to discredit him? Had the prototype failed overnight? Sophia's office was crowded. The CFO was there, along with two people Marcus didn't recognize, a woman in her 60s wearing a power suit and pearls, a man in his 40s who looked like he billed by the hour. Marcus, this is Margaret Chen, chair of our board of directors, and Robert Lawson, our corporate attorney. Sophia's voice was careful, controlled. There's been an accusation. Victor stepped forward. Last night, our servers detected an unauthorized data transfer from your workstation. Technical specifications for the livestream, along with proprietary manufacturing data, all sent to an external email address. The room tilted. That's impossible. The logs don't lie. Victor handed a tablet to Margaret Chen. Timestamp shows the transfer occurred at 11:47 p.m. Saturday. Mr. Hayes, were you in the office Saturday night? No, I was home with my daughters. Can anyone verify that? My 13-year-old and my 9-year-old? but I'm not sure that counts as an alibi in whatever the hell this is. Robert the lawyer spoke up. Mr. Hayes, these are serious allegations. Corporate espionage carries both civil and criminal penalties. If you were working with a competitor, I'm not working with anyone. I didn't send anything. Marcus looked at Sophia. You know I wouldn't do this. Her expression was unreadable. What I know is that the data came from your account. Either you sent it or someone used your credentials. Then it's obvious someone's framing me. Convenient timing. Victor's voice was smooth. Just days after you expressed concern about the live stream's profitability. Just after you proposed design changes that would significantly reduce our margins. Those changes were to make the device actually work. Or to make it less valuable to Horizon and more valuable to a competitor willing to pay for our research. Marcus felt the walls closing in. This was it, the other shoe dropping right on his head. He'd been at Horizon for less than 2 weeks, and already someone was setting him up to take a fall. Margaret Chen closed the tablet. Ms. Reynolds, I think it's clear we need to suspend Mr.
Hayes, pending a full investigation. If the allegations prove false, he can return. But until then... No! Sophia's voice cut through the room like a blade. We're not suspending anyone based on circumstantial evidence. Victor's eyebrows rose. Sophia, the board doesn't make operational decisions. I do. She turned to the lawyer. Robert, I want a full forensic analysis of our security systems. Find out how someone accessed Marcus's account. In the meantime, Marcus stays on the project. Margaret's expression hardened. Ms. Reynolds, I strongly advise. Noted. Is there anything else? The older woman and the lawyer exchanged glances. This was a power play, Marcus realized. Margaret and Victor ganging up on Sophia, using him as the wedge to undermine her authority. After they left, Sophia closed the door and leaned against it. For a moment, her perfect composure cracked, and Marcus saw the exhaustion underneath. Someone's trying to destroy you. Or you, Marcus pointed out. If I go down, the livestream project stalls. If the project stalls, you lose credibility with the board. Either way, Victor wins. She pushed off the door. We need to figure out who accessed your account and why. Rachel can help. She's got security clearance for the server logs. Sophia, maybe you should just let me go. Cut your losses before this gets worse. Not a chance. Fire in her eyes now. You're here because you're good. Because the work you do matters. I'm not letting Victor run you out just because it's convenient for him. Something in her intensity made Marcus pause. This wasn't just about the live stream or corporate politics. This was personal for her. Fighting back against the forces that had taken her father, that wanted to strip away everything he'd built. Okay. What do you need me to do? Keep working. Pretend everything's normal. And trust me to handle the rest. But when Marcus got back to his desk, he found his computer login disabled and his access badge deactivated for all but the most basic areas of the building. Someone, probably Victor, had moved quickly to isolate him. Rachel appeared at his door. I heard. I'm sorry. Can you get into the server logs? Already working on it. But Marcus, if someone planted evidence on your account, they're probably smart enough to cover their tracks. Then we find another way to prove I'm innocent. But sitting at his useless computer, access revoked, reputation in tatters before he'd barely started, Marcus felt the old, familiar weight settle back onto his shoulders. The weight of not being good enough, of being disposable, of being exactly what Victor had called him, a mechanic pretending to be an engineer. His phone buzzed. Text from Jazz. Everything okay? You haven't checked in. He should tell her the truth, that the job was already falling apart, that they might be back to scraping by within a month, that he'd been an idiot to think someone like him could belong in a place like this. Instead, he typed, all good,
Love you. Because sometimes the bravest thing you could do was keep lying until the lie became true. Rachel found the breach at 2 a.m. on Tuesday. Marcus got the call while he was lying awake, staring at his bedroom ceiling, running through every conversation he'd had at Horizon, looking for the moment he'd slipped up. I found it. The server logs show a remote login from an IP address in River North. Whoever accessed your account did it from outside the building. Marcus sat up, reaching for the lamp. Can you trace it? Already did. The IP belongs to a coffee shop on Michigan Avenue. Public Wi-Fi, no security cameras inside. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. So I'm still the suspect. Not necessarily. I pulled the authentication logs. Your account shows two-factor verification through your phone at the exact time of the breach. Except, according to cell tower data, your phone was on the south side. You can't be in two places at once. Hope flickered in his chest. That proves someone cloned my credentials. It suggests it, but proving it in a way that satisfies Margaret Chan and the board? That's harder. Rachel's voice carried exhaustion. I'm forwarding everything to Sophia. She'll know what to do with it. After the call ended, Marcus lay back down, but sleep was impossible. Someone had gone to significant effort to frame him, not just accessing his account, but doing it in a way that pointed directly at corporate espionage. This wasn't random. This was surgical. Victor's face kept appearing in his mind. The CFO had the motive, certainly, but did he have the technical knowledge to pull off this kind of hack? Or had he hired someone who did? At 5, Marcus gave up on sleep. He made coffee, checked on the girls, both still sleeping, Jazz's phone charging on her nightstand, Maya's stuffed rabbit fallen on the floor, and sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. If he couldn't access Horizon's systems, he could at least review his own files, looking for anything that might explain who wanted him gone and why. His email inbox held the usual clutter: spam, LinkedIn notifications, an Amazon shipping update, and then, buried 3 days deep, something that made his blood run cold. Subject: thought you should know. No sender name. The email address was a string of random characters at a domain he didn't recognize. The body contained a single attachment, a PDF labeled horizon_financials_confidential.pdf. Marcus's finger hovered over the attachment. Opening it could be another trap, but not opening it meant staying in the dark. He clicked. The document was dense, pages of financial statements, transaction records, bank account numbers. Most of it meant nothing to Marcus, but one section, highlighted in yellow, showed a series of wire transfers totaling $3 million, all sent to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands over the past 18 months. The transfers were authorized by Victor Blackwood. Marcus read through the surrounding pages, trying to understand the context. The money appeared to be coming from Horizon's operating budget, disguised as consultant fees and research expenses. But the receiving accounts had no legitimate business connection to the company. This was embezzlement. Large-scale, systematic theft. And someone had sent it to him anonymously, 3 days before he was accused of corporate espionage. His phone rang. Sophia. Did you get an email from an unknown sender? PDF attachment? You got one too? Along with Margaret Chen, Robert Lawson, and Victor himself. Someone's trying to blow this whole thing open. Her voice was tight. Can you get to my office in 30 minutes? The girls, bring them. I'll have someone from HR set them up in the employee lounge with breakfast. The drive downtown at 6 a.m. was surreal. Jazz woke up confused, Maya grumpy, both of them bundled into the truck in their pajamas with winter coats thrown over top. Marcus tried to explain, emergency at work, just for a few hours. They could watch movies in a nice office. But the truth was too complicated and too dangerous. Horizon's building was almost empty this early. A security guard let them in, and a woman from HR appeared to escort Jazz and Maya to a lounge on the 20th floor that had comfortable couches and a TV and a breakfast spread that made Maya's eyes go wide. Dad, they have chocolate croissants. You can have one, just one. Jazz pulled him aside. What's really going on? Work stuff. I'll explain later. Just stay with your sister, okay? On the 40th floor, Sophia's office was already full.
Margaret Chen looked like she hadn't slept. Robert Lawson was on his phone, barking orders at someone about securing documents, and Victor sat in the corner, his usual composure fractured, hands clenched on the arms of his chair. Mr. Hayes, Margaret's voice was ice. Did you send these documents? No, ma'am. I received them the same as you. Convenient. You're accused of espionage, and suddenly evidence appears implicating our CFO in financial crimes. Victor stood abruptly. This is a setup. Someone's trying to discredit me. Using my email? Marcus met his eyes. Seems like we have the same problem. Robert ended his call. I've got our forensic accountants pulling records now. If these transfers are real, we'll know within hours. They're not real. Victor's voice carried desperation now. This is fabricated. Someone doctored those statements. Then you should welcome the investigation. Sophia remained calm, but Marcus could see the calculation behind her eye. If you're innocent, the audit will prove it. Margaret turned to the lawyer. Robert, what are our legal obligations here? If the documents are authentic, we need to report to the SEC immediately. If they're fabricated, we need to find out who's behind this and why. He looked at Victor. Either way, I'm advising that Mr. Blackwood be placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. That's absurd. Victor's face was red now. I've been with this company for 20 years, since Daniel founded it. You're going to sideline me based on anonymous allegations? We're going to follow protocol. Margaret's tone brooked no argument. You'll retain full salary and benefits, but until this is resolved, you're not to access company systems or premises. Victor looked at Sophia. You orchestrated this, you and your pet mechanic. Careful, Victor. Sophia's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're already in enough trouble without adding defamation. After Victor was escorted out by security, the room felt lighter but no less tense. Margaret gathered her things, clearly eager to be anywhere else. Ms. Reynolds, I hope you know what you're doing. If this blows up, it's your head on the chopping block. Noted. Once they were alone, Sophia collapsed into her chair. The perfect composure cracked, and for a moment, Marcus saw the weight she carried. CEO of a $2 billion company at 38, fighting enemies both inside and outside her organization, trying to honor her father's legacy while building something new. Someone's helping us. The question is who and why. Could be someone inside the company, someone who knows what Victor's been doing, or someone outside who wants to see him fall. Sophia pulled up her email. The anonymous sender used a routing system designed to hide their origin. Rachel traced it as far as a server in Virginia, but after that, it disappears. Marcus thought about the timing. 3 days ago, I got that email, right before I was accused of espionage. Whoever sent this knew the accusation was coming, which means they're either involved or they have access to Victor's plans. Sophia met his eyes. We need to be very careful. Until we know who's on our side, we trust no one. His phone buzzed. Text from Jazz. Maya ate 3 croissants and now she's running around. How long are we stuck here? I need to get the girls home. School starts in 2 hours. Go. I'll handle things here. But Marcus. She waited until he looked at her. Watch your back. If Victor's desperate enough to embezzle, he's desperate enough to do worse. The drive home was quiet. Maya crashed hard from her sugar high, falling asleep in the back seat. Jazz stared out the window, processing. That lady, Ms. Reynolds? She's pretty. Marcus glanced at her.
What does that have to do with anything? Nothing, just an observation. Jazz's voice carried the careful neutrality of someone testing the waters. She seems to trust you a lot, bringing us to her office like that. We're dealing with a complicated situation. Is it dangerous? The question caught him off guard. Jazz's eyes were steady, too old for 13, waiting for the truth. It might be. Someone's trying to hurt people I work with. I don't think you and Maya are targets, but we need to be smart. Smart how? Don't talk to strangers. If anyone asks about me or my work, you tell me immediately. And if you see anything weird, cars you don't recognize, people watching the house, you call 911 first, then me. Jazz nodded, filing away the instructions. Dad, are we going to be okay? The question every parent dreaded, the one that demanded a promise you couldn't guarantee. We're going to fight like hell to be okay. That's all I can give you. That's enough. They made it to school just before the bell. Marcus watched his daughters disappear into the building, Jazz shepherding Maya, both of them carrying backpacks and the weight of knowing their father was in trouble, and felt the familiar ache of wanting to protect them from a world that didn't care about fairness. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but the area code was local. Mr. Hayes, this is Detective Sarah Chen, Chicago PD. I'd like to speak with you about an incident involving your employer. His stomach dropped. What kind of incident? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Can you come to the 18th District Station this afternoon? Say 2 o'clock? Am I being charged with something? Not at this time. We just have some questions. After he hung up, Marcus sat in his truck outside the school, trying to process. The police were involved now. Whatever was happening at Horizon had escalated beyond corporate politics into actual criminal investigation. He called Sophia. The cops want to talk to me. Don't go without a lawyer. I'll have Robert meet you at the station. I can't afford. The company will cover it. This is connected to Horizon. You're not facing this alone. At 2 o'clock, Marcus sat in an interview room at the 18th District Station, Robert Lawson beside him, waiting for Detective Chen. The room was exactly like every cop show he'd ever seen. Gray walls, metal table, mirror that was probably one-way glass. Detective Chen was younger than he expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes and the kind of tired that came from seeing too much. She set a folder on the table, nodded at Robert. Mr. Lawson, thanks for joining us. Detective, what's this about? We received a complaint from Horizon Technologies regarding potential theft of intellectual property. Specifically, allegations that Mr. Hayes here accessed confidential files and transmitted them to an outside party. She opened the folder. Want to tell me your side? Robert leaned forward. My client denies any wrongdoing. The evidence suggests his credentials were compromised by a third party. That's convenient. Chen pulled out a printed email. This was sent to our department's financial crimes unit this morning. Anonymous tip claiming Mr. Hayes was working with a competitor called Nexus Biomed. The email included transaction records showing payments to an account in Mr. Hayes's name. Marcus's blood went cold. That's a lie. Is it? She slid a bank statement across the table. This account was opened 3 months ago at First Chicago Bank. The name on it is Marcus Hayes. Over the past 2 weeks, it's received deposits totaling $75,000 from Nexus Biomed Corporation. He stared at the statement. The account number, the transactions, even the address listed. His address on South Hermitage. Everything looked legitimate except for one crucial fact. He'd never opened this account. Someone's framing me. That's what everyone says. Chen leaned back. Here's my problem, Mr. Hayes. You're a mechanic who suddenly gets hired as a director at a major tech company. Within 2 weeks, proprietary data gets stolen from your account. An offshore account in your name starts receiving payments from a competitor. From where I'm sitting, that looks like industrial espionage. Robert's voice was sharp. Do you have any evidence linking my client to the creation of this account? We're working on it, but the timing is suspicious. Suspicion isn't evidence. Unless you're charging Mr. Hayes, we're done here. Chen studied Marcus. I'm not charging you yet, but I will be investigating. Don't leave town, Mr. Hayes. And if you're smart, you'll cooperate with us rather than your employer. Outside the station, Marcus leaned against his truck, hands shaking. Robert stood nearby, already on his phone. This is bad. Whoever's setting you up isn't messing around. They've created a paper trail that points directly at you. Can you prove the account's fake? We can try, but banks don't just hand over records without court orders, and court orders take time. Robert ended his call. In the meantime, you need to lay low. Don't do anything that could be interpreted as suspicious. Like what? Breathing? Like having contact with anyone from Nexus. Like accessing files you shouldn't. Like... He paused. You have kids, right? 2 daughters. Then think about them. Because if this goes sideways, you could be looking at federal charges. Wire fraud, theft of trade secrets, conspiracy. That's 20 years minimum. The number hit Marcus like a fist. 20 years. Jazz would be 33. Maya would be 29. He'd miss everything. Graduations, weddings, grandchildren. His daughters would grow up visiting their father in prison. I didn't do this. I believe you. But belief doesn't win court cases. Evidence does. And right now, the evidence says you're guilty. That night, Marcus sat his daughters down and told them a version of the truth. Someone was trying to make it look like he'd done something wrong at work. The police were investigating. Things might get complicated. Maya cried. Jazz went silent, her face closing off the way it did when she was processing trauma. Marcus held them both, feeling the weight of his failures crushing down, failing to keep them safe, failing to provide stability, failing to be the father they deserved. Later, after they were in bed, his phone rang. Sophia. I heard about the police. I'm sorry. Not your fault. It is, actually. I brought you into this. I should have known Victor would go this far. Her voice carried guilt. There's something else. We got the forensic accounting results. The transfers in that anonymous email? They're real. Victor's been embezzling for at least 2 years. So he's going down. Eventually. But he's lawyered up, claiming the accounts were for legitimate consulting work. It'll take months to unravel. A pause. In the meantime, he's pointing fingers at you, telling anyone who'll listen that you're the real criminal, that you set him up to cover your own espionage. And people believe him? Some do. He's been at Horizon for 20 years. You've been here 2 weeks. Who do you think the board is more inclined to trust? Marcus closed his eyes. I should resign. Make this easier for everyone. If you resign, Victor wins. The Lifestream project stalls. Everything we've worked for disappears. And if I stay, I drag you down with me. Then we both go down fighting. Fire in her voice now. Marcus, I didn't hire you because I needed a yes man. I hired you because you're brilliant and honest and you give a damn about doing the right thing. Those qualities are exactly why Victor's threatened by you. He's threatened because I'm a convenient target. No, he's threatened because you represent everything he's not. You built yourself up from nothing. You take care of your family. You do good work not because it's profitable, but because it matters. Her voice softened. My father used to say that the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when every choice is hard and every path is painful. The words settled into Marcus's chest,
finding the hollow place where doubt had been growing. He thought about Sarah, about the promises he'd made at her bedside, to keep going, to raise their daughters right, to never let the world's cruelty turn him into something less than he was. Okay, I'll stay. But if this gets worse, if they come after my girls, I'm out. No job is worth their safety. Agreed. And Marcus, thank you for not giving up. After she hung up, Marcus sat in the dark living room, Sarah's picture on the mantel, watching him.
Sometimes the hardest thing in the world was believing you deserved to fight back. The next morning brought news that shattered what was left of Marcus's equilibrium. Rachel called at 6 a.m., her voice shaking.
Someone broke into my apartment last night, tore the place apart. They took my laptop, my work tablet, all my backup drives.
Did you call the police?
Yes, they came, took a report, said it was probably a burglary. But Marcus, they only took the electronics, left my jewelry, my TV, everything else. Her breathing was ragged. This wasn't random. Someone wanted my research.
Where are you now?
At a hotel. I'm scared. Whoever did this, they know where I live. They know I've been helping you. Marcus felt the trap closing tighter. First him, now Rachel. Victor, or whoever was really behind this, was eliminating anyone who could prove Marcus's innocence.
Pack a bag. I'm coming to get you.
Marcus, you can't.
You helped me when nobody else would. I'm not leaving you alone. He woke the girls, explained they were skipping school today, loaded them into the truck. Jazz asked questions he couldn't answer. Maya sensed the fear and went quiet, clutching her rabbit. At the hotel on North Avenue, Rachel was waiting in the lobby, a duffel bag at her feet, dark circles under her eyes.
This is insane. We should go to the police.
The police think I'm a criminal. They won't help. Marcus loaded her bag into the truck. We need to figure out who's really behind this.
It's Victor. It has to be.
Victor's smart, but is he smart enough to hack accounts, create fake bank records, break into apartments? Or is he working with someone? They drove to Marcus's house. It wasn't much, small, old, in a neighborhood that was rough around the edges, but it was home. Rachel sat at the kitchen table while Marcus made coffee, Jazz keeping Maya occupied in the living room with cartoons. Okay, let's think this through.
Rachel pulled out her phone, the only device the burglars hadn't taken. Victor's embezzling, that's established. But the espionage accusations against you, the fake bank account, breaking into my apartment, that requires technical expertise and resources Victor doesn't have. So he hired someone. Or he's working with Nexus Biomed. Rachel pulled up a website. Nexus is a medical device company. They've been trying to develop a portable dialysis machine for years, but their designs keep failing FDA approval. If they could get our LifeStream specs, they'd save millions in R&D. And Victor gets paid to deliver those specs. Exactly. He embezzles from Horizon to fund his lifestyle. He sells trade secrets to Nexus for extra cash. And when you showed up and threatened to make the LifeStream successful, you became a problem. Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number again. He answered warily. Mr. Hayes, this is Catherine Moore. We spoke last week. The reporter.
Marcus almost hung up. I don't have anything to say to you. Wait, I'm not calling for a quote. I'm calling because I have information you need.
Her voice was urgent. I've been investigating Nexus Biomed for 6 months. They have a history of acquiring technology through questionable means. Corporate espionage, bribery, intimidation, and I have documents linking Victor Blackwood to their CEO.
Why are you telling me this?
Because I don't like seeing innocent people get destroyed. And because if I can prove Nexus is behind this, it's the story of the year. A pause. Meet me. Let me show you what I have. If it helps clear your name, great. If not, at least you'll know what you're up against. Every instinct screamed trap. But what choice did he have? Where and when? Navy Pier, noon. Food court by the Ferris wheel. Come alone, or I walk. After he hung up, Rachel was staring at him.
Please tell me you're not actually going to meet a reporter at Navy Pier based on a phone call.
You have a better idea? Yes. We take what we know to Sophia and let her lawyers handle it. Sophia's lawyers think I'm guilty. The police think I'm guilty. The board thinks I'm guilty. Marcus stood. I need proof I'm not. If this reporter has it, I'm taking the risk. Jazz appeared in the kitchen doorway. Dad, Maya's asking if we can go to the aquarium today. Not today, baby girl. She doesn't understand why we're not in school. Jazz's voice was tight. Neither do I, really. You keep saying everything's fine, but we're hiding in the house with your coworker who looks terrified. He'd underestimated how much she'd picked up. 13, but already carrying adult awareness of when things were wrong. Someone's trying to hurt me professionally. I'm working on fixing it. In the meantime, I need you both safe. Safe from what? The question he couldn't answer honestly.
Safe from whoever broke into Rachel's apartment.
Safe from corporate criminals who saw his daughters as leverage. Safe from a system that presumed guilt and demanded proof of innocence. Just safe. Can you trust me on that? Jazz studied his face, then nodded. But Dad, whatever you're about to do, don't be stupid. At 11:30, Marcus left Rachel with the girls. She had a concealed carry permit and a small pistol she kept in her purse, which was both reassuring and terrifying, and drove to Navy Pier. The tourist destination was sparsely populated on a cold November weekday. A few school groups, some retirees, families with small children bundled against the wind off Lake Michigan. He found the food court, bought a coffee he didn't drink, and waited. Noon came and went. 12:15. 12:30. Marcus started to think he'd been played. Then Catherine Moore appeared. 30s, red hair, dressed like every other tourist in jeans and a North Face jacket. She sat across from him without preamble. You came. Good. That shows either courage or desperation. Little of both. She pulled a flash drive from her pocket, set it on the table. This contains emails between Victor Blackwood and Richard Vance, CEO of Nexus Biomed. They've been in contact for 8 months. The emails discuss payment for consulting services, but the timing matches exactly with the data breaches at Horizon. Where did you get these? I have a source inside Nexus. Someone who's tired of working for criminals. She slid the flash drive toward him. There's also evidence of the fake bank account. Nexus set it up, made the deposits in your name, then tipped off the police. They wanted you arrested, removed from the Livestream project. Why would Nexus care about me specifically? Because your filtration design works. The simple, elegant solution that makes the Livestream viable.
Nexus spent 5 years and $20 million trying to solve the same problem and failed. When word got out that some mechanic from the South Side cracked it in a week, they panicked. Marcus picked up the flash drive. Why give this to me instead of publishing it? I will publish it, but I need you to testify, to go on record about what happened. A reporter's investigation only goes so far. A victim's testimony? That's a story people remember. And if I refuse? Catherine's eyes were steady. Then Nexus wins. Victor walks away rich. And you spend the next decade fighting charges you can't beat. She stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. The anonymous email you received? The one with Victor's financial records? That was me. I couldn't let you twist in the wind without ammunition. But I need you to fight, Mr. Hayes. Because if you don't, people like Victor and Nexus keep winning. And the Lifestream, that technology that could actually save lives, dies in a boardroom. After she left, Marcus sat with a flash drive in his hand, weighing options. He could take this to Sophia, let her lawyers build a case. He could take it to the police, hope they'd listen. Or he could do nothing, let the system grind him down, and pray his daughters would understand why their father gave up. His phone buzzed. Text from Jazz. Maya's asking when you'll be home. I told her soon. Please let that be true. He stood, pocketed the flash drive, and headed for the exit. On the way out, he passed a mother with a young daughter, maybe Maya's age, both of them laughing at something on the girl's phone. The kind of normal moment his daughters deserved and weren't getting because their father had dared to reach for something better. The drive back to the south side took forever. Traffic on Lakeshore Drive was its usual nightmare. Marcus's mind churned through scenarios, none of them good. If he used Catherine's evidence, he'd be going to war with Nexus and Victor both. If he didn't, he'd lose everything anyway. Back home, Rachel met him at the door. We have a problem. Someone called the house phone, asked for you by name. When I said you weren't available, they hung up. Could be anyone. Caller ID said Nexus Corporation. The walls were closing in. Marcus checked on the girls, both in Maya's room, playing some elaborate game involving stuffed animals and a cardboard castle, then sat with Rachel in the kitchen. They know where I live. They're making sure I know they know. We need to call Sophia, get security involved. But before Marcus could dial, his phone rang. Sophia's name on the screen. Marcus, where are you? Home. Why? The police just served a warrant. They're searching your workspace at Horizon. They have evidence, real or fabricated, I don't know, linking you to the data breach. Her voice was tight. You need to get ahead of this. Whatever proof you have of your innocence, you need to produce it now. He told her about the flash drive, about Catherine Moore's information. Sophia went quiet. That's either our salvation or another trap. Send me the files. I'll have Robert review them before we make any moves. Sophia, if this is real, if we can prove Nexus and Victor are working together, then we have a chance. But Marcus, you need to understand. Even if we prove you're innocent, the damage is done. The board sees you as a liability. Your continued employment here is... I know. I'm radioactive. Bitterness crept into his voice. The mechanic who thought he could play with the big boys. That's not what I think. But it's what they think, and their votes matter. A pause. There might be another way. If we can prove Victor's embezzlement beyond doubt, if we can show the board that keeping him is more dangerous than keeping you, you're talking about a corporate war. I'm talking about survival. Mine and yours. Steel in her voice now. Send me the files. Let me build the case, and in the meantime, watch your back, because if Nexus is calling your house, they're not done with you. After he hung up, Marcus sat with his head in his hands. Sarah's picture on the fridge seemed to judge him. This wasn't what they'd planned. This wasn't the future they'd imagined when they'd scraped together a down payment on this little house, when they'd painted Maya's nursery together, when they'd promised each other that their kids would have it better. Jazz appeared in the doorway, silent as a ghost. Dad, I'm scared. He looked up, his 13-year-old daughter, trying so hard to be grown up, finally cracking. Come here. She sat beside him, and he put his arm around her shoulders. She was almost as tall as Sarah had been. When had that happened? I'm going to fix this. How? I don't know yet, but I promise you, whatever happens, you and Maya come first. Always. What if they arrest you? The question he'd been avoiding. Then your Aunt Michelle will take care of you until I get out. And if you don't get out? Marcus pulled her closer. Then you remember that your father loved you more than anything in this world. And you take care of your sister, and you don't let this break you. She was crying now, silently, the way Sarah used to cry when she thought he couldn't see. He held her until the shaking stopped, until she pulled away and wiped her face with her sleeve. I hate them. Whoever's doing this to you. Yeah, me too. That night, after the girls were finally asleep, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and the flash drive from Catherine Moore. The emails were damning. Victor and Richard Vance discussing payment schedules, data deliverables, timelines for removing obstacles from the Livestream project. One email made Marcus's blood run cold. The engineer is becoming a problem. His design actually works, which complicates our timeline. Recommend accelerating Phase 2. Full discreditation and removal. The family angle provides useful leverage if needed. The family angle. They were talking about Jazz and Maya, about using his daughters to pressure him. Marcus forwarded everything to Sophia, then copied the files to 3 separate locations: his laptop, a cloud drive, and a thumb drive he'd hide somewhere safe. If this was going to be war, he needed insurance. His phone buzzed at 2 a.m. Sophia. I've reviewed the files. This is enough to bury Victor and make a strong case against Nexus. But using it means going public. Catherine will publish, the SEC will investigate, and this becomes headline news. I'm already headline news. Might as well make it count. There's a cost to this path, Marcus. Your name gets dragged through the mud publicly before it gets cleared. Your daughters will see their father accused of crimes on the evening news. You'll be unemployable at most companies because even when you're exonerated, the stink doesn't wash off completely. What's the alternative? We bury it. Use the evidence privately to force Victor out and negotiate a settlement with Nexus. You resign from Horizon with a severance package that keeps you and your girls comfortable. The Livestream continues under new leadership. Everyone moves on. It was the smart choice, the safe choice. Take the money, protect his family, disappear back into obscurity. But Jazz's voice echoed in his head. We take care of each other. And Sophia's words from earlier, the measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. No. We go public. We burn it all down if we have to. Marcus surprised himself with the certainty in his voice. Because if we don't, men like Victor keep winning. And I won't teach my daughters that surrender is how you survive. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Okay. Then we fight. Catherine publishes tomorrow. I'll prepare a statement for the board. And Marcus, thank you for being willing to bleed for this. Just make sure the bleeding means something. After he hung up, Marcus walked through his small house, checking locks, looking out windows for cars that shouldn't be there. In Maya's room, his youngest slept with a rabbit tucked under her chin, innocent and unaware of the storm about to break. In Jazz's room, his eldest was awake, scrolling through her phone in the dark. Couldn't sleep either? She jumped, then relaxed when she saw him. Just thinking. About? Mom. What she'd say about all this. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. What do you think she'd say? That you're being stubborn and brave and kind of stupid, but she'd be proud anyway. Jazz set down her phone. She always said you were the strongest person she knew. Not because you never broke, but because you always got back up. Your mom was smarter than both of us combined.
So what now?
Now we fight. Tomorrow, a reporter's going to publish a story about what's really happening at my company. It's going to be bad for a while. People will say terrible things about me, but eventually the truth will come out.
And we'll be okay?
We'll be better than okay. We'll be free. Jazz nodded, processing.
Dad, when this is over, can we get a dog?
The question was so unexpected, so perfectly normal, that Marcus almost laughed. Yeah, when this is over, we can get a dog. He kissed her forehead and left her to sleep. Tomorrow would bring the fight. Tonight, he stood guard over the two people who mattered more than any job, any reputation, any future that didn't include them whole and safe. Outside, a car drove slowly past the house. Dark sedan, tinted windows, slowing at his driveway before continuing down the block. Marcus watched it disappear, then double-checked every lock. The war was coming. But for now, his daughters slept. And that was victory enough.